you're more than welcome, Leslie and Jen, to participate because we want to hear from you. The subject that we're going to talk about, it's about diversity in organizational leadership. So once again, this is a podcast that is that Dr. Douglas, we call it Unregulated Leadership, okay? Because we tend to demystify leaders. Like everyone can be a leader, a mom can be a leader, a pastor can be a leader, right? A teacher can be a leader. So it's not about like someone that holds a baton. It's about like influencing. It's about like having a conversation. So you're more than welcome to be present with us. It's a podcast that also partnering with the Lion Gates, the Lion International that Dr. Douglas is the CEO, and also with the William James College alumni. So welcome. Let's dive into it. Today we are inviting Elijah Wright, one of my favorite students. He doesn't know what he's gonna get into. And here we are talking about this subject. It's a topic that I know is dear from your heart. Elijah is working with kids, autistic kids. You see that, right? So he's a very, very gentle person, very, 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 very polite person, and I'm so pleased and very available. Anytime that I need something, I check Elijah. So she is my lifeline, I will say. Thank you, Elijah, for coming. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I would like to let my friend. Thank you for coming and supporting the podcast today. I know DEI is really like a subject dear to your heart. So when I said, Elijah, what would you like to discuss as a student in the OLP program? You said, why not DEI in organizational leadership? So here we are having this conversation. Thank you. And at my wife, I have also Eileen, my daughter. She wanted to support me. So thank you, Eileen, for being present. Okay. Can we start? Yeah. Okay. This is the first question. Oh, this question, I don't know. The biggest challenge in organization. I think we need to talk about what is DEI, where does that come from, why we are talking about DEI in organizational leadership right now.
Well, thank you. First, my initial topic was rainbows and butterflies. And I have enough data to talk about that. The second topic was DEI, which you know a little bit more about. Diversity, I think, is important for organizations because it shows what's out there. It's not just one type of person, one ethnicity, it's multiple, which brings us together.
Yeah. So when you talk about diversity, yes, the world is very diverse. I see green, I see white, I see brown. What do you mean? Is it diversity in people, diversity in our way of thinking? What is it about?
That's a good question. I think you have to preface with context because diversity will look different from organization to organization, from place to place. So personally, in my organization, I'm in Massachusetts in Worcester, the ABA, diversity would look like any people other than white female.
Right? For example,
right. Another organization, diversity will look different, depends on who you are. So I always talk in context of where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So my diversity is anything other than a white female.
Yeah.
Which would be
good. So it's curious that you associate. I like the focus that you're just zooming in. I like that. So let's zoom a little bit in. Tell us a little bit about your occupation and why do you probably, is it something that you would like to see happen in your occupational space?
I am a behavior analyst, so I work with children and adults, spectrum diagnosis, and it's different in my field with diversity because when we look to hire, we look at experience, education. The last thing we look at is race, which looks like.
Yeah, the last one.
Right.
Consider.
Right. So it just so happens that I've been involved with the hiring process, so I know how this goes, and I've looked at applications and resumes, and I look at qualifications because we need quality as opposed to quantity. And in our industries, is high turnover is very high. So it's hard to figure out why diversity isn't there, because it's just on paper how we hire. They come into the interview, and then we look to hire more Blacks or Spanish or Asian, but
So probably you already did an inventory and you feel like, it's not so much diverse. Is that the case?
it's gotten better over time.
Okay.
It's predominantly white, like my organization. I wouldn't say necessarily industry, because it's just different in different sectors.
Is it needed? I know that you're in the autism world. Myself, I'm working in my center, my health center. There's a lot of kids that I'm seeing, and a bunch of them is dealing with this problem. So we need more professionals that can really help. Do you feel like in your occupational space, there's a need for more diverse, and they come from everywhere, I would say?
Absolutely. I think diversity would help with employees and clients, because the clients, although we're working with autism, we're dealing with behavior plans, and there's no color in that. But if the therapist or the supervisor or BCBA looks like the client, as far as with the family, it helps with progress. There's more of an understanding of what they're going through, of their environment, and they can do more than just from behavior plan of this behaviors we need to work on, when there's other factors that are involved. So without the same.
So when we talk about diversity, it's not only about like the color. I will think more so about like, okay, do you understand my problem? For example, we receive a lot of migrants in our center, right? They speak different languages, and most of the time they think that this kid has a problem, a developmental problem. This kid may have a trauma, just a simple trauma, okay? Or probably doesn't hear you because he doesn't understand your language. So they attributed it. I think someone who doesn't have the connection with this type of population may really misinterpret the problem. So when we think about diversity, I'm thinking also about like language, culture, lifestyle, way of being, a lot. So do you think it's a factor? Do you think it's another factor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But how do we change that? What do we do?
Oh, I'm asking you the question. And it's a good question. How we as students, right, future leaders, can contribute to fostering a diversity within organization. How we can contribute, because that's what we are doing. During the OMP program, we are thinking, we are getting the tools, we are doing surveys, we do assessment. How do we do that? How do you think we can foster this inclusive type diverse team to address different problems because we're in the USA, right? So it's a lot of different people there, right? So how can we foster that? What do you think? And you're welcome to jump in. Thank you, Jillian, for coming in. I really appreciate it. So this is really a discussion. We are talking about DEI in organization and how it can be more inclusive. So please free to jump in. I repeat the question again. How can we leaders, future leaders or leaders can foster this inclusive type of work that is needed, I think.
I think it starts with dialogue.
You start with dialogue. Yeah.
People's experience and exposure gets shared, then we all learn from that.
Yeah, okay. Dialogue is good. Yeah. What else? Yes, Dr. Miller?
I would say that there's a combination of self-work for the leader and system work for the system that is wanting diversity. Because too many times people advertise that they want diversity, but they haven't done the work, so that even when diversity comes in, it is not welcomed. So in whatever form that takes. So I think that's a huge gap that happens in these kind of ideas that people have. They're just excited about DEI as a concept and want to like add it to their thing for lots of reasons, not always the right reason. But if you do set a goal and work and be in dialogue and create like a belonging, in that system, then you can really change things and people who are diverse will want to be there.
So it's like check the box, in a sense, they just, all right, we're working on diversity.
Right.
I agree with Dr. Green, because it's like you, half the time it comes in as a need, right? Okay, we have to do it because we have to make a quota, we have to make a number, right? So there's a need, but is it really welcomed, right? And then when the person, when the system begins to, or organization begins to open up the doors for those diverse employees or workers, they become too much, right? So, right, and the fear kicks in.
Yeah.
Wait, they know too much. Are they taking my job? Now we gotta push this person out.
Me versus you.
And the diversity leads, right? And so it's like, again, I will go back to self, right? You need to know thyself to accept diversity within your organization. Because if you're not clean with you, you'll never be clean with the atmosphere.
I think another thing that happens is when people bring in diversity, when you don't know yourself and you allow for the conversations to happen, you don't know how to manage the conversation as they're happening. And so while you say, I'm gonna create the space, the safe space, people have these conversations, and then your employees begin to have conversations that you no longer know how to manage, then it becomes an even greater problem because you haven't equipped yourself to deal with the challenges that's gonna arise by you allowing the space to come in. So knowing yourself, but also equipping yourself on how to manage those conversations and situations.
And manage your team. I just thought about a group that I know, I'm sorry, and it's like, here's the leader, right? The chief. And he's cool here. So you lock key. But then when this one comes in and the jokes are made, how do I separate this to now support diversity in this organization and still hold on to this, right?
So there's a language that needs to be watched and changed, right? The language that they are having together as leaders, our language.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. Understanding, because now we are exploring the many challenges that's happening when we think about like diversity in the workplace, right? So there are some challenges, as you said, right? You were a leader, right? As Eileen said, I think your supervisor wanted you to just work from home, and then as a systemic issue, it wasn't happening. Although she said yes, but there was something else going on. So it's not a clear message there. So the language needs to be changed, right? So
And it's also how they're used. So what do you are you bringing this person in to help learn and understand, and then financially, are we now making things across the board equal with the teams, male, female, white, black? Are we making it equal, or are we bringing them in to just work with Johnny over here because we don't understand and Johnny's mother's giving us a hard time, so we don't know how to meet Johnny's needs? But if we hire what Johnny looks like, and that's the sprinkle of the diversity inside the organization, we're all set.
Right.
Right?
You're never all set. You're never all set.
I was just gonna tap into a little what Amber and Laura are saying too, in terms of like you can put some policies or you can put people in, but there needs to be resources and support to help continue to provide education, sustainability, support, because it's not gonna be a one-time everybody embrace. So there needs to be resources and things to help capture those little outliers or whatever they might be that, you know, are still struggling with it.
because when I'm hearing Elijah talking about like, we need diverse people, right? I'm seeing that probably those people needs to be trained. It's not that you're gonna grab them from everywhere. Those people needs to be trained. They needs to be, formed, and they need to be efficient in what they are doing, right? So there's a lot of work and, implementing diversity in the workplace per se, I would say. Is that correct? Yes.
I have a question, as we're talking about diversity, and we have a huge, we have a huge number of migrants coming over, right?
Yes.
How do we now
Mhm.
support them in a diverse way as people? I was gonna say students or children, people as a whole,
Yeah, to perform, right?
and not have judgment
Right.
from what the media and news is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And how do we find that person and hire that person as well without passing judgment? Like, we really need you, but no, we need you, and not make them feel like you're only here for them, right?
And that's what we are discussing. We are discussing about leaders, or we can, because this is what it is. A leader is not a chief, it's someone that is collaborating. I'm
Right.
saying, this is what I see leadership. For me, I think I'm coming from a place that it's a collective work. It's a very influencing work. So whatever you do alone doesn't work. We need to hear from other people. We need to hear from our teammates. Yes, Eileen.
I think to answer your question, I think two things can be true. I think you can hire personnel to meet a specific need while also understand that they're part of a bigger systemic change. For example, I was thinking back to like college and undergrad, and a big complaint was that we didn't have enough professors of color, like across the board. I think across the school we had one Black professor and she taught like multicultural studies, right? So we weren't seeing that diversity in other parts of the school. And every time we talked to the administration, they said, well, we're creating a pipeline program. Because to your point you made earlier, they're like, we only look at resumes and we aren't seeing professors of color come in that pipeline.
Yes.
That's important. And I think it's a much bigger issue because it's a cycling issue, right? Because if I as a student am not seeing professors of color, I as a student am much less likely to go down that path. So and creating that pipeline and understanding that yes, you are bringing students because you are bringing professors of color to meet the need of having students see these professors, but also they can bring a different perspective and work into the bigger ecosystem of that student.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we go to another questions a little bit. We're gonna just flip the script a little bit to share example of successful strategies or initiative that you may be seeing, each one of you, okay, that are effectively increase diversity among leadership roles. So let's share about like any successful story that you see that was implementing when the leaders are implementing diversity in the workplace, in their homes, whatever. So can we share some stories? Do you have any stories, Jillian? Do you have one?
Probably, I'm still processing, I might need more time to think, but
Okay.
Dr. Helen.
Thank you for that handoff. I know the brain against negative appraisals faster than the positive ones, so
Yes.
what's coming to mind are only negative examples at
Yes,
the moment. So I'm trying to sit and be like, when was that really
Oh
positive?
my God.
I don't have any off the top of my mind. Honestly, we're never really called in when things are going really well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can share one from a congregational perspective. So I'm an ordained minister and I'm a Unitarian Universalist, which we try to be progressive in our ways. We have a long way to go, but we're trying. And I was in a congregation that wanted to, that was part of a diversity project, bringing on ministers of color who, we're a white denomination largely. We have a very, very storied past with some things that happened in the past that we didn't do well. And so as part of their commitment to that, they spent 4 years forming a group and working with 600 adults and 300 children in the congregation to build diversity into the conversation. And that was wildly successful. And they hired a minister of color who we historically are not, we do not do well supporting. And he is now the senior minister at this large church. And their commitment to it was just solid. Their care, it was dialogue based. I didn't have those words because I didn't know OD, but it was a dialogic process. They looked at every system. They had conversation with as many people as they could. And they continue to have those conversations with people who walk in the door. Now, that has not created a largely diverse congregation because there's a whole bunch of other reasons, but it certainly has supported this person of color who would have in other systems really been destroyed by it. So there is some success, but it's a hard commitment and you need to make a commitment forever. It's not a commitment for now, it's a commitment forever that you want to change your system and you want to learn how to continue to change your system.
And I think it's also knowing, like, having the right people to engage in that dialogue.
Yes,
Because it's not really like just a conversation. It's like what we are doing really right now is like learning from each other. It's a shared space of learning from each other. But it's more than that because they are looking to have an outcome for change, for more diverse. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the role of education and diversity, because we are a place that we are here learning to become or to just to enhance our knowledge. So what role do you believe education plays in preparing future leaders to embrace diversity and lead inclusively, right? Because we are called, each one of us, to lead in a certain way or in a certain sphere of activities. So what role do you believe education plays in preparing us as future leaders to embrace this called diversity, okay, and lead inclusively, right, Laura? To lead inclusively. What do you think our education is helping us to do in that area, Laura? Laura, do you have something to share?
I'm still trying to get the question together.
Yeah.
I can chime in.
You
on
can
that.
try, thank you so
Um,
much.
So,
Education.
I mean, to me, the whole concept of education is to get you comfortable with the uncomfortable and to challenge your paradigms, the way that you think, the way that you see things, and how do you react to those things. And that to me is a crucial element to progressing DE&I, is able to be comfortable with individuals who think, look, and behave differently than you do, and be able to embrace that and be comfortable with having your own paradigms challenged.
Yeah.
So that to me is a critical role that education plays.
I think a good example of that would be this program. For example, this program, I've been talking, I think this program kind of is doing what you're saying. It's putting us all in those uncomfortable positions sometimes in groups. That's some of the other groups.
Yeah.
Some of the other groups that we're in,
Yes.
teamwork.
Can you dive more into that? Can you give us an example, for example? I know we have many experience of teamwork, so group exposing us.
I've had great teams. All my teams have been wonderful.
Yeah.
But realistically, we don't always get along with our team members.
This is a conversation, Elijah. Let's go. So tell us more.
Well, from what I've heard, what I've gathered, right, that everybody, like in teams and groups, you have people from different parts of even the world,
Yeah.
different environments, different experiences, different backgrounds, different cultures that come together. And if you're used to acting or talking a certain way, that someone else isn't used to, they're not gonna understand where you're coming from. They don't think, oh, she's rude, she's inappropriate, but you're not, because this is how, right? This is your culture, and then if you know Myrna, you know this is how she is, right?
Okay.
And that's what
Thank
I
you
was
so
gonna,
much.
I want to push you back off what you're saying is that even though we have professors, right, who are our leaders, right? So they put us in groups, but they don't give us a chance to learn personalities, right? So like when things happen, it's, you know what, this is how I want it. She's rude, or she's a leader, or she's a bully. It's how I'm used to working, and I might have more time. So what is your time like? But the conversations don't happen because it's like we have a deadline. Or before the deadline meets, leaders, our professors, the doctors who should say, hold on, this is what's going on. This is where she's coming from. This is where or why don't you all meet first this week and have a session where, right. A little bit about yourself, so people can understand, but everything has a deadline, just like
Yeah.
diversity, right? So there it is, right? And so it comes up like someone always gets stuck in the middle. Someone shuts down, someone's stuck in the middle, and then they have the power with their chest out. No. And it's all personality, and diversity comes in that piece where it's like, oh, that's the expectations of her. No, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It's who you are from what you become. And this is how your household has taught you to be, right? And most of us come from a place of protection, because as children, we're taught something that is helpful to our parents, but harmful to our growth. And if you're a person of color, you will understand these words. What happens in my house stays in my house. You grow up with that and you be like, then when do I talk? Because I got some stuff I need to talk about.
And to who?
And now I gotta find someone that looks like me so that they can understand me. But I want to talk to this person because I need a change from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I would love to talk more about that perspective and what you were saying about how sometimes, you know, the difficulties in the group, you just wish like the teacher or the leader or someone would come in and like fix the issue. And, you know, now I'm in my last semester, hopefully, and what I realized is, what I realized is that, you know, that push and pull, that toil, that is the learning process. So that is what it is, right? So that's the breaking out of the shell moment. And what we learned, like I think in one of the practicums, it really struck me that that's the best way to have a group. Like usually people feel that they're having such controversy or they're having such a challenge, but actually they're performing better than a group that is all homogenous. That feels like everything is smooth sailing. They think that they're doing great, but statistically, that group that's having the back and forth, the push and pull, they're actually producing better results because of that that messiness. And I think I'm preaching to the fire. I think
It's all that.
it's all of us, like you love.
It's funny, you're like, wait, did I forget? Do you talk about this all the time or not?
So if we can, I know some more of us, we are familiar with the Cantor model, right? So think about like a group of people from different perspective, different background, different personality, and working together, and the group is very diverse. So one of them will be the mover. Let's push this. They have to get back. Let's do it. And then the other one was like, okay, why does she think she has to tell us what to do?
But that's why I said the cantor was the best gift, one of my best gifts, one of the best gifts we was given here. But if as a team, right, you could say, hey, it's 4 of us. What's your cantor? What do you do? But the minute you do that, people who are not secure with themselves look at you like you're the bully. And so now you have to be careful how you walk around people here.
So I like to give the gift of, for my own comfort, can we share what our cancer profiles are? Of being like, this is for me. I'm asking not to embarrass you or to highlight anything other than I'm uncomfortable not knowing more about how we work together. For my own comfort, can we all share this? Or like, for my own comfort, I'm asking this. Like I will say, please don't tell anyone. I don't believe you will. I'm asking for my own comfort. Only because if I don't ask, I'll be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't have that.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So diversity, probably you may think that diverse people will come together as like a boomerang, right? Something that's boiling. And sometimes people might be shut down, feel intimidated. Some people might feel like, okay, that's not my place. Because they come from a different culture, they don't have to tell you. They assume that you may know, and sometimes you're not aware. So how do we navigate that? Working in a diverse, because I think when we are walking in a place that is diverse, it's a little bit challenging. It seems that we are always walking on eggshells, trying to not, to not.
But that would be great if like organizations can have access to the cantor or pay for whatever it is for the team and then just put it up on the board. Like, hey, he's a pusher, he's a mover, he's a.
They do. That's what most of my life looks like.
But I swear, like that should be, I'm just sitting here thinking
Think about how we influence the system, right? We have access to that.
Yeah.
So why not in every class, if we're in teams, that is a part of the conversation. We have that team charter and it builds on each other. So if I always know I'm about to be in a group, I always know I'm about to talk about what my strength is. We're gonna create a team charter so everyone can kind of figure out what their roles are and if they switch. But it builds on each other, but it's from what we've learned in the program, so that we're speaking the same language no matter what class they're in.
I think about why we don't do that. Because
That's
like,
right.
it's hard to remember these things and like be very intentional. You have to then say, I'm gonna take that energy to lead this space. And we all know that that is extra work, right? Yeah.
I think too, I was just listening to it all, it's also around psychological safety. So even if we have a tool that will identify who we are, the space needs to feel safe enough to be able to share that depending on who's there. And I also think we did a restorative justice meeting, like just kind of went around. But not that I'm suggesting restorative justice, but just the process is also, because I think in general, I think culturally just make assumptions about people. And when there's opportunity to go around safely and just have a voice and be able to speak, it breaks through the assumptions. And I think allows understanding and the ability to like move forward.
Thank you so much. I have a couple of things. I know that I propose the same thing, Lavonya, when I enter groups over and over, I'd be like, hey, we already learned these processes, we already know they can't work, why don't we just utilize this? And I'd be surprised how often people would just like gloss over me. You know, like, but that would be something I would have to understand about the dynamic, but I didn't understand.
People aren't like, also some people have different experiences with cancer. Yeah, there might be someone who's like, I hated that, and the fact that you brought it up, just like, you never know. So, but if you don't have psychological safety, someone might not be able to say, no, thank you, can we pick something else? I don't like cancer. But if you can, then that's great. Otherwise, you're like, wait, why was that such a swing and a miss? You have no response from that, and then you don't offer it again because you got shut down. Yeah.
Or there'll be an opportunity to be like, oh, that's a great idea. Why don't you like frame up the guide, like frame up the charter, and then, I frame it up and then nobody contributes. And it's like, okay, I get the message. Nobody wants to do it. But I think part of that is a sponsorship needs to happen, even though we might not consciously have our biases, there are the subconscious biases. I still present as a Black woman. I don't think about it all the time. I just show up as I'm a human being, I guess. But the way people view me and my valence, maybe there's an interaction that happens. The other thing I wanted to mention is about adult development. How does education help? I just feel like the more that we know, the more that we can have abstract thinking, right? Or the more we can suspend our judgment while we take on somebody else's thoughts.
As you say that, yesterday I went home and I was heavy when I left here. I'm not gonna give out the whole thing, but I was heavy when I left here. I went home and I had the conversation whether I'm leaving here, leaving work. Sit down, dinner table, this is what we do. And my man said, well, why are you in school? And I was like, what? And he said, if you're not there to be a change agent and you're coming home with more trauma, why are you there? I said, baby.
Yes, thank you.
Because it's true. Right? But why is it that the leaders keep leaving it to the students? Because we're students. We're growing into leaders. No matter where we are in our pinnacle, we're still growing, right? How come you're not seeing this? I get it. Sometimes there's a blind eye. But you got to pay attention to body language when they come back in your space. It's heavy, right? Let me do a check-in. So I ended up, I had something happen, so I had to leave early. But So I did get an email, you know, they did restorative justice and this and that happened, but it didn't help. It didn't help because 8 o'clock at night, you heard ding, 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 ding. So there was still frustration going on. I put my phone on do not disturb, but it should not have happened. We are first adults, but then we have leaders. And I feel like when I go into class and it's like, oh, this is what the groups are for. No, because the group has problems. I need someone here to say, how do we now address? So when the next group is positioned or formed,
We will have a conversation.
we don't have to go on with
But
the
Laura,
same thing.
you can initiate it, or anyone in the group can initiate that conversation. And I think that's what needs
But when
to
you talk
happen.
about DEI, right, what happens? It's she's angry, look at the color of their skin. So, whoa.
Yeah, before going that, because I want to acknowledge that we have friend here, thank you, friend. I like to acknowledge all the people. Yeah, Mike, thank you, Mike, for coming. Yes, thank you so much. We have to acknowledge our people, right? So thank you so much. Aileen, you have a question?
I just had a comment, there was maybe a couple minutes ago about the game for. With similar personality, in undergrad, people hear the question, how they hear email signatures. So anytime it's going out, it references it. So it's like another way. I feel like it's kind of neutral, like it's fair. So that's maybe a good point, right? Some people might not be comfortable with saying, I'm a follower. Right? And then how do they get saved? When they keep putting it back on the group.
That's a good question for unregulated leadership. Because guess what? We are both followers and leaders, are we? Are we not?
Yeah.
We are both followers and leaders. We are leaders in certain situations, we are followers in other situations. Why someone will be, and it's all about the education. That's when education plays a role. Because we are educated to promote change, not to repeat the same pattern. Why, Caitlin?
Yes, but what I was gonna say about about the situation, about situations about using your voice. We have been, as women of color, we have been in situations where we constantly have to watch the way that we are being seen and the way that we come across. And and just fear of what the ramification is gonna be just by using that voice, okay? And so what this program has taught me is, I don't care anymore, okay? And some of my classmates who have had the courage to speak up have spoken up and called people out. And those people, in all honesty, didn't even realize that they were being condescending, they were being demeaning and being mean. And in some cases, all it takes is for you to just speak up and use your voice. It doesn't have to mean that you are angry, even if they perceive you in that way, but that's their insecurity and their assumptions and their biases and what they have to work through. And I have to learn not to carry that, okay? And just be myself and use my voice.
Thank you so much. This is a great, yes, go ahead.
So I'm her classmate that spoke out against her. Yeah, no, but to Catherine's point, there's been situations since I started the program where I felt very uncomfortable. And I will say to point of like just this program, I think that this has been the most comfortable I've ever been with talking about these topics and being open to express myself around this, right? So this program has given me a voice. I'm an introvert by nature. I am a people pleaser and I avoid conflict. These are the things I've accepted about myself. I know who I am, right? And so because I'm that way, I tend to straddle the fence a lot. But it's because I'm trying to people please. I don't wanna upset you, but I don't wanna upset you. So I'm like, oh, you both can be right? But then I got you saying, oh, no, choose a side because this ain't cool. And then I got you saying, oh, no, you're shady, you ain't loyal, you know? And it's like, no, but I am loyal and I love you both. I don't want you fighting, kids make up, so we can stop this, right? So this program has taught me how to I'm still that way, still shadow with it, but I'm learning how to kind of step out of that and really just pick a side. And the reason I don't like to pick sides, I don't want the conflict. Right? So what I do naturally is I shut down and I retort and I go into my shell, right? You have the lions and then you have the turtles. I'm a turtle. I go into my shell and I'm like, nope, I poke my head out. Oh no, it's not safe. Okay, I'm coming back to my shell. But lately, throughout the past few years, I've been like, you know what? You know that. But you were in a class with me where I had to speak up. But initially you got both to say, I turned into a turtle, went to my shell, and then. But that's generally how it goes, right? Like I feel like now I'm back up against a wall because somebody asked me. I was minding my business. Wow. And somebody was like, "You're quiet, what's up?" And then the class is like, so I'm like, okay. And now I let it all hang out. Yeah. But, and it's interesting that you guys talking about this because my kids, they were doing a flow film. And it was similar topic, but in the reverse, where it's like, how white people show up in spaces, and how they can do better at accepting their privilege. And it was a wonderful colloquial, and just bringing up that conversation. And what he did as well was he had a fishbowl of white people in the middle of the circle. And majority of the people that was around was Black people. Okay. And so now we're watching white people. What's your impression? I don't know my impressions of what they did, but it was interesting. It was great to see. But to that point, it's like we can't always show up. Always we're trained not to. I was growing up, I was told, stay in a kid's place, you don't have an opinion, shut up, so my voice was silent. So, for some people, because I talked to somebody about this the other day, and they said, well, that's why now I have to speak up. But for me, I went the opposite way. I still shut up. I still get quiet. I still feel like I'm gonna get in trouble if I say something. And so that particular class that we were in, and that situation happened, the person apologized and they said, I didn't know that I made you feel that way. And, I'm sorry, I haven't, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? This entire week, and that person has not said one word to me. They've gone out their way to avoid me.
And then what does that say? I think bringing diversity into place like that, William James, believe me, it's becoming more diverse than
it really is. It's very diverse.
It's right.
Very diverse.
So I think there's need for conversation.
I also wanted to point out that a lot of what we're learning, it's not just learning it, but I have to live it. In order for me to be that functional change, I have to live what I'm learning.
Yes.
And so and everyone's different. Some people can just take the information and go with it and not really connect to it. But me being able to be more vocal, I would never talk like this anywhere else except in front of my students, because I'm actually pretty shy, even though it doesn't show. But it has opened a Pandora's box for me that can't be closed.
Yeah.
And I have like vision that I feel like a superhero that I hadn't seen before. Okay, you know what I mean? Yeah. Using the information. So I think we have to live the change that we want to be. If we want to be authentic,
We have to
change.
be, that's the word of the day.
Yeah.
We have to repeat it again, please, Kathleen.
What I'm saying?
We
have to live
the change that we are
what we
promoting.
want to be. Yeah.
And that's where the deep dive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also think,
No, you go ahead.
well, she got her hand up too, guys.
The point of learning is also an aspect of unlearning, and I think truly unlearning the ways that we can raise and some of the things that we've been taught. And I don't know if it's the best example, but navigating corporate environments, my go-to has been have the audacity of to bring a different personality.
No offense to my white men there.
I don't care. Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe?
Somewhere around
Say
We don't hear you, Aileen. Could you repeat louder? We don't
I
hear.
just, I said there's so much emotional turmoil sometimes when we want to bring up an issue about how we're going to be perceived and how we say things and the biases that they have. But when I think about why they're not thinking about that, right? So I think coming into that space and allowing people to process emotions and being unafraid to call it out as well if you are feeling any type of backlash.
Yes, yes.
There's so much I want
I
to
know,
say.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Could you please tell us your name?
Oh, my name is Anne Green, by the way. I'm my first year, second semester student here.
Yes, welcome.
And we're fast.
Thank you so much.